Hey, happy Friday. Happy Friday. If you were on here, get those likes up. Make sure the volume's good. Um, get those likes up, tag anybody, share this with someone that you think may find it interesting. Um, I'm gonna try to keep this one a little bit short today. See if I can work that out. Let's see. But anyways, so I wanted to continue a conversation that I began a little bit on the community tab, right? Around this whole topic of just Black woman relationship dynamics, what's going on with us. And I came across this post by Nylah Vibes, popular YouTuber. Many of you guys, I'm sure, have heard of her. I think she does a lot of collaborations with Cynthia G. Came across this post that got a lot of different feedback, and I already said I was going to be the minority opinion of it, and got some good feedback on the post. And I wanted to go into it because I'm what she shared. I'm seeing this ideology, being popular, promoted, shared just all across the social media spaces. And me being the minority opinion on this whole matter, I just wanted to share a different perspective, so you guys can, agree with it, disagree with it. I wanted to share a different perspective because I think it's good to have all of those things to consideration when we're talking about things like relationships, abortions, all of that. So I'm going to bring up her post a little bit, and then you guys can, we're going to get into it. Let me find it real quick. Guys, if you're coming on here, get those likes up. Get those likes up. Tag anybody. Share this. Let me see. Hey, what's going on, Day and C? Also, guys, if you'd like to show support to this show, you can find me on Cash App or Venmo, Shay Sade. Also, super chats are open. I will be sure to acknowledge all super chats. So y'all saw this post, but I'm just going to read through it again. This one right here, where it says, okay, judging from what Black men are saying in my comment section about Black women who have their children, Black men would prefer to get an abortion than to give birth. I say don't get pregnant by their ungrateful arses. Thin the herd. And as a last resort, abort. If you're certain you have a unicorn, situation gamble at your own risk, but the odds are not on your side. Nylah. So let's go a little bit. I just want to go briefly into the comments and see what some of these lovely ladies are saying. Here's one. It says, okay, exactly. They get so mad when Sin says to abort their kids, but it's the first thing these ninjas ask for when they find out you're pregnant. Then they fly into a rage and start telling you all the things they won't do for their child. I wish I had never slept with my baby daddy, but I had my child because I don't believe in murdering an innocent babe. That didn't ask to be here. She's loved and cared for, but I'll never again use my sexuality that way. Celibacy until marriage or death, no in between. Very, very, very interesting. Now here's another one here. So sadly, this is true. I was told to get one over and over the day after finding out I was pregnant, but didn't, and knew I'd be raising my daughter alone. Men don't consider the mental trauma getting an abortion causes, so it is best to not get pregnant unless you are married and it was planned. Here we have one, but Sin literally says the exact same thing, but somehow they get mad at her. LOL. It says here the truth isn't supposed to feel good. It says if you want kids, don't give up on your dreams and want to minimize the risk of having them by a F-boy. Find a man with a stable life who can support a family and who wants to marry and explicitly want kids. Doesn't already have kids. Date him for long enough to get a good judgment of his character. Yada, yada. I mean, y'all get the picture. So, guys, if you're just coming on here, get those likes up, y'all. Get those likes up. Tag anybody. Share this with someone that you think may find it interesting. We're going a little bit over the post that I shared the other day, where just this whole topic of aborting kids came back up, right? I'll review briefly for those of you guys who just got on. The whole conversation that started, or that spurred on this conversation, or the post that spurred on this conversation, y'all. It says here, judging from what Black men are saying in my comment section about Black women who have their children, Black men would prefer you get an abortion than to give birth. I say don't get pregnant by their ungrateful arses. Thin the herd. And as a last resort, abort. If you're certain you have a unicorn situation, gamble at your own risk, but the odds are not on your side. So again, just a quick recap. Do not get pregnant by Black men. And if you do, sadly, abort them babies thin the herd. Why? Because they're ungrateful baby daddies that don't want you to have kids to begin with. That is the recommendation. That is the recommendation. Let's see. Dane C. I see that's Nylah says she's part of the Synergy Taz exclusive once B1 network. Now the divester Black Men Hate Grifter Network. Shout out to Dane C with the 5 on the super chat. Much appreciated. You make sure you get your hand clap. Much appreciated. Yeah, not as familiar with the content. I know that she has worked, I think, together a lot with Cynthia G. But I haven't done a deep dive on her content. But I did come across this post. Real Talk with Yanni shared it on a community tab, which is how I saw it. So interesting stuff. So yeah, here is my. So there's a couple of things I want to unpack here. So right here, she goes off to say, judging from what Black men are saying in my comment section about Black women who have their children, Black women would prefer to get an abortion than to give birth. So here's a statement. Black men would prefer women to have an abortion than to give birth. This is what she is affirming to be true. That Black men would prefer that women have abortions than to give birth. Is this true? Y'all let me know in the comment section whether or not you agree or disagree with that. I don't really have any data on that per se. I've never been in a situation where I had a unwanted baby and was going between abortions. So I cannot speak from my own personal experience. Y'all let me know if you think this is true, that Black men prefer for Black women to have abortions because they are ungrateful, So that's the framing here. It says, I say don't get pregnant by their ungrateful arses. Thin the herd. And then as a last resort, abort. So, what's so interesting to me about this framing is that she states it by saying Black men are the ones who want you to have abortions because they're ungrateful. So ungrateful Black men don't want you to have abortions. So as a way to get back to them, have an abortion. As a last resort, but have an abortion. So it's like, wait. So they want you. Wait, I'm like, so Black men want you to have an abortion, and you're saying because they want you to have an abortion, you're ungrateful. So as a way to get back to them, abort. That's why. Yeah, I'm not even gonna lie. I was a little bit confused by that. Completely, actually. And then here's another one again. It says thin the herd. If you're certain you have a unicorn, gamble, but odds are not on your side. So there is so much said, I think, said in that short little snippet. And again, she is just voicing, I think, what is a common thought or a common stream of thought I see happening in this female space, right? Which is that basically women need to stop having kids or they need to abort the kids that they have. Now, here's what I want to talk about. What I actually find interesting about this whole conversation. She literally says thin the herd. Literally says thin the herd. So it's like, my first thought is nobody understanding that we are literally right now, encouraging our own genocide? Like, am I the only one that's seeing this? Am I the only one that is aware that, hey, we are actively working against the extinction of ourselves? And like, am I crazy? Did I miss something? Literally in there says thin the herd. Thin the herd. Like, I feel like that's something that I would hear a neo-Nazi say, but maybe I'm tripping. But like, that was my first thought seeing that. I'm like, am I in the Twilight Zone? Like, do we have women telling other women, thin the herd? Do not reproduce yourselves. Do not reproduce children that will have your reflection, that will. I'm like, am I crazy? Am I crazy? You said our Black women are new supremacists. So that was my first thought. I was like, okay, the problem that I have with that framing is that, one, we are advocating for the extinction of ourselves. Two, I'm like, why is there not a conversation about just getting the right men? Because as I mentioned before, a lot of women do have situations where They may be with the wrong guy. You know, the baby daddy, baby mama scenario. That is it's a very much a real thing. People be struggling with the child support. But what is oftentimes overlooked is that, again, those men who represent those baby daddies, who represent the ones who are having multiple kids with multiple baby mamas, like I said, that's probably a good 15% of the population at best. About 30% of Black men are married, 54% of them are single and childless. So we're starting with about 15-16% of Black men who are going to fit that don't want to commit baby daddy scenario that got multiple baby mamas. That's so again, that is a small, very, 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 very small percentage of men. So I'm like, I wish when we were having these conversations, we were also looking at other possibilities. The only possibility isn't just, oh, don't have kids, or if you have kids, abort them. I think another possibility may actually be, hey, how about let's start to marry before you carry? Like, whatever happened to that? Whatever happened to, how about we get married and then consider having a kid? How about we get in a committed relationship with a productive human being, a productive man, and then have kids? Like, it was interesting to me that never came into scenario. There was never a talk about, hey, ladies, make sure that when you're with somebody, have those tough conversations, vet through your value system, actually commit yourself through marriage. Like, make sure that you guys are willing and ready to establish a family, a household together, then have kids. That never came up in the conversation. And I just found that really interesting because I'm seeing this stuff going on as if, or I'm seeing these conversations be had as if there's no other alternative, as if the only alternative is to abort literally a young innocent child, right? Or to just not deal with men. And it's like, no, there are other options. There are other options. So, I mean, y'all, sorry, I'm just going through the comments. Yeah, see, I need to know why murder is number one on their minds as a form of correction. I have no idea. I have no idea. And you know what's interesting about this? Again, the framing is it's the man's fault. I want you to pay attention to that. If you saw the post, again, I shared it on my community tab too. I want you to understand how she started off saying essentially it's the man's fault. Men are the ones that want you to have abortions as soon as you get pregnant. I can't speak to that personally. That could be true for some, it could not be true for others. But the conversation was framed as if men are the ones that want you to have abortion. So again, as a way to get back with these men, don't deal with them. Or if you do get pregnant by them, abort. So it's like, men are selfish for wanting you to have an abortion, and to get back at them, abort. Like, that's what I'm just like, yo, this logic, I'm just not following. And that's why I said, I may be the minority opinion on this, and that's okay. I'm fine being the minority opinion, but I don't think that is the best option. Like I said, again, we are literally advocating for the genocide of ourselves. Literally, the term is thin the herd. She said thin the herd. Thin the herd. I'm like, right. What I can appreciate is we're being pretty honest. At this point, we're being honest about the intentions. Thinning the herd, making sure that we don't exist anymore. I see a problem with that. I see a problem with that, y'all. Personally, I'm like, yeah, I'm not saying you don't want to birth children into a situation that's like unhealthy. You don't want to birth children into a situation that is toxic. I agree with that. But let's not assume that every situation with a Black man is just that. We know it's not the case. And again, that was the interesting thing to me, was that this was framed as if, again, those are the only two options. Either you got to abort or you don't deal with these dudes. And I'm like, both scenarios are not good. I just think it's downright healthy. I mean, not healthy, downright unhealthy. Not healthy, y'all. So guys, if you're on here, get those likes up, y'all. Get those likes up, tag anybody, share this with someone that you think may find it interesting. Right. And okay, and this is what I really want to get into. I think there needs to be an honest conversation about the kind of men that we are choosing, the kind of men that we are attracted to. And I know some people say this conversation gets old. I know some people saying, "Oh, you're gaslighting Black women," or "You're gaslighting women," period. And it's like, no, we honestly have to look at our intentions and look at our motives and understand, why is it that we are even involving ourselves with the kind of person who would put yourself in a situation to say, I don't want to deal with you. See, and this is why, this for me, this is why very, very, very big on being intentional about what you want. Like for me, when I was dating, I wanted to be married. I was very clear. This is what I'm after. This is what I'm willing to do, or not willing to do. And based upon that, based upon the energy I put off, then I was essentially getting the guys based upon the energy I was putting off. When I was in a place where I was kind of very wishy-washy and kind of confused and just all over the place, then I was attracting guys who were very wishy-washy and confused and all over the place, because I was partially, that's how I was presenting myself. And so relationships are very much reflective. And so often I hear the narrative of, oh, we were doing cool, and then I got pregnant, and then he switched up on me. First of all, I'm saying you shouldn't be getting pregnant by a dude that ain't your husband, period. That's not a good setup. I talk a lot why I believe in abstinence, celibacy. Like, I think that is the best way to go. But even apart from that, it's like, yeah, why would you make a life commitment with somebody through having a kid? Because whether or not you see it that way, you have a kid with a person, that is a life commitment, period. It's a life commitment. Even if it has to be done legally, even if it has to be done through the court, it's a tense relationship. You have now bound yourself for your entire life through that baby. So if you're going to do that, why not just do it like the right way and establish yourself, actually commit, go through those tough conversations, vet through values, vet through what are you even really about? Like, then you don't have to have this conversation. Then it's not a surprise pregnancy. Then it's not a surprise, oops, I'm pregnant and he don't really love me. Like, none of that happens, I think, when you're actually clear and you're actually moving with intention in the dating market. But I think this is what happens sometimes when we're just told, oh, don't really worry about it, have fun, hot girl summer, whatever. Or even the whole idea of having casual sex. You can have casual sex, all these different things. But at the end of the day, one, I don't agree personally, but two, you're putting yourself at risk. You are putting yourself at risk. And even if you try to take all the precautions in the world, you can still get pregnant. And God forbid you get pregnant by a dude that you haven't had these tough conversations. You haven't made sure you guys are aligned spiritually, emotionally. You're not doing anything. You're just messing around. And then you get yourself in a situation where you're pregnant. And then now all these men are dusties. That's what I'm saying. No. What kind of men are we choosing? How are we choosing? What are the characteristics we are looking for? There is a difference between an F-boy and a potential husband. A very, very, very big difference. But if we're not having those conversations, and if we're not being honest about the guys that we're even attracted to when we're choosing, and the guys, maybe the good guys we're overlooking, then we exist in this echo chamber of just failed relationships. And then we're around other women, maybe, or other people who have had failed relationships, and there's nobody there to encourage you to be self-reflective and say, okay, yeah, there are bad guys out there for sure, but are you the bad woman? If there's all these dusty dudes, right, that are walking around, what are you doing dealing with dust? What does that say about you? What does that say about what you're attracted to? What does it say about what you're attracting? And I think these are the kinds of conversations that we really need to be had, honestly. So anyways, guys, if you're on here, get those likes up, tag anybody. Y'all show support to the show if you would like to. You can find me on Cash App or Venmo, Shade Sade. Those super chats are open. I will be here to announce all super chats. So y'all, those are my thoughts, y'all, honestly. I didn't have too much to add on this, but like I said, I saw it. And I knew I was going to be the minority opinion. Everybody has a right to their own opinion, obviously. What she says, I think, resonated with a lot of women based upon just the feedback that I saw, based upon the way it was shared. But what I essentially wanted to say is, hey, those are not the only options. And hey, by the way, actually, I think those are bad. I think those are bad and destructive conclusions to come to. I don't agree with genociding yourself, especially if you say you be about Black women empowerment or love Black women, then we should actually promote the reproduction of Black women. Period. You're not going to encourage the reproduction of Black women if you're not willing to birth them. So I think this is not difficult. This is not rocket science. This is not. None of us need to go to school to understand this. If you refuse to have Black women or birth Black girls, then you're not going to have them. And if we are in a culture that says just abort these babies, you're not going to have women. You are literally going to thin the herd, and at that point, you're no longer going to exist. And can we really say that we love ourselves, that we are for Black women, we are pro Black women, if we are promoting behavior that's going to lead to our own extinction? I don't think so. But maybe I'm the crazy one. Am I the crazy one, y'all? Am I tripping? Yeah, I see bad faith in framing regarding Black reproduction, very little talk of responsibility and accountability to irresponsible and reckless men and women. That's what I'm saying. I will never say there are absolutely men out there who are irresponsible, period. And also, by the way, can we just stop acting like all these women, that 100% of women are over here leveling up all the time, being the responsible, level-headed one, and that we also don't make mistakes? Because like I said, relationships are reflective. So if you have found yourself in a stream of relationships with bad or unproductive men, then that is a reflection of you on some level, whether it's due to low self-esteem, whether it's due to you don't think you can do better, whether it's just you're choosing based upon just purely how the person looks, whatever it may be. But that is a reflection of where you are weak in an area. It does not mean that you don't have value as a woman. It doesn't mean that you can't grow and change, but relationships really are reflected. Water seeks its own level, period. So that's what I'm saying. These conversations, because I think they're very one-sided and they don't look at the fuller picture, right? Which is that actually a man and a woman have to come together to reproduce the child. Therefore, a man and a woman are both responsible. It's not, it's 100% his fault or 100% her fault. It's like 99% of the time, unless there's a situation where, God forbid, it was forced. Apart from that, it's like, yeah, you guys both decided to do what you needed to do. So you both somewhere down the line, you are responsible for this. So just simply framing it as these men want you to have an abortion. So in order to punish these men, abort. That's why I'm just like, no logic. I'm not seeing the logic. I am missing it. Now, y'all, if you see the logic, if I am overstating, missing something, misunderstanding something, please let me know, because I could be wrong. But like I said, I'm sharing the minority opinion on this. So again, I don't believe in thinning the herd. I don't believe in empowering Black women by telling them to extinct themselves. I don't believe in that. I don't believe in that. Also, I think we should have conversations about the kind of men that we want, and the kind of men that we like. And you know, one of the reasons I believe that conversation is not as popular is because that now requires us to be self-reflective. Yeah, that requires us now to actually start to do some of the harder internal work, and nobody wants to do that, y'all. That stuff is difficult. That stuff can be difficult sometimes, and it can be overwhelming, and it can be scary. But that's actually what needs to be done. That is what needs to be done if we really, really want to talk about choosing men or being with men where, first of all, it's not an issue of marriage. You guys do commit to each other because you've already had those conversations, and he's a valuable guy. And at that point, this isn't an issue. This is not a, oh my gosh, now I'm pregnant, he's running around. That's not an issue because he chose the right guy. And that's what I'm saying. We can hoop and holler all we want, but a lot of these women are complaining about the minority because they're not dealing with the majority, because the majority are getting overlooked. We know this 80-20 rule. This is not new. This is not surprising. I'm not making this up. We all know this from experience. I'm sure many of you guys in this comment section have never been in this scenario, because you're not the guy who operates like that. You know what I mean? Some of you may have, but I'm sure many of you have not. So that's what I'm saying. It is one-sided. We can't act like it's all these dudes over here, every single Black man over here, just trying to impregnate y'all, just trying to be irresponsible. When we know, based upon the data, we're looking at about a good 15-16%. Like I said, 30% of Black men, about 30% are married, 54% of them are single and childless. So that leaves about a good 15-60% of them who are single to be going around making babies with women. We can't include the men who are married because they're married to their wives. We certainly can't include the men who are don't have kids. So we're left with the single men, the single baby daddies, the one that everybody likes to talk about, complain about. That is a minority. That is a minority, people. A minority. So real quick, I did see a few super chats come through. I wanted to acknowledge. Shout out to you, JB, with the 8.99. I see. Okay, I see. At first, I was against it, but if we're being honest, do we really want to see these women that promote this stuff raise our black boys? It could be a very unsafe and dangerous household. I do appreciate the love and support. I do appreciate the love and support. Um, I hear what you're saying as far as should women who don't want kids have kids? No, no. I, I do agree. If you don't want to have kids, you shouldn't. I just wish the option wasn't abort. Like I don't because and then what? It's funny because actually one of the women in the comments said that she was like, when men and she blamed it on the men, but it's like when men over here telling us to abort, they don't understand the psychological repercussions. And this is another thing that I said. Women that I've spoken to who actually have gone through with an abortion, many of them have had psychological issues with it. Many of them. I'm not saying this is all of them. Some of them have to celebrate, but many of them, they're like, they are not well after. They feel guilt, they feel shame, they feel struggle. So it's like, if you don't want to have kids, I don't think you should put yourself in a situation to do so. Me personally. With that said, it's like, if you do want to have kids, in order to avoid this whole issue, marry before you carry, period. Like, this is not complicated. It's not really difficult. If you're in a committed relationship with a man, then you get pregnant. Actually, that's kind of exciting. But if it's with a guy that you guys just were kind of messing around and you guys were like friends with benefits kind of situation, or it was like casual, or it was unclear, you get pregnant, he runs away, and here we are. And a lot of women find themselves in those kind of situations because how many of us are going around hella confused about what are good relationship boundaries, dynamics, what to look for, what not to look for, what to avoid. How many of us are going around just really broken and confused? I think many of us are. And we create kids in those environments, and that makes it more confusing. So, okay. So also, shout out to Jordan Smith with the $9.99 on the super chat. I see. Okay. So I see. Okay. Imagine if black men started a movement called Stop Dating All Single Moms. Imagine the uproar that statement would get. But black women can say delete babies and it's just normal. This is not normal to me. This is not normal. And I agree with that. First of all, yes, there would be an uproar if there's a movement that said stop. Now, hear me. I would also have a problem with that movement because either side, what we are now essentially promoting is the extinction of ourselves. That is my main thing. The main thing I was like, do we not understand that if we're saying we love black women, but we don't believe in reproducing us, then we're not going to exist? Is that what you want? If that's what you want, okay. But I don't know that you can. I don't know if you can say that's love. I love you so much that I want to make sure that I don't reproduce you, that I extinct you, that you are no longer here in a few generations. I love you so much. I don't want you to be here anymore. Like, to me, that does not seem like love. Maybe I'm crazy, but to me, saying thin the herd, make it to where you actually don't exist, or you're not in a scenario where you can exist. To me, that doesn't seem like love. That doesn't seem like a way to actually. That doesn't seem beneficial. If we still want black women, dark-skinned black women with kiki hair, Afrocentric features, whatever you want to put it, that doesn't seem like that'd be the best way to make sure that those little cute black girls and black boys can exist. Is to thinning the herd and making sure they're not here anymore. I don't know. Maybe, like I said, maybe I'm the crazy one. Okay, let me see. So shout out to Dabbagents with the 5 on the super chat. You got the sponsor of the week in the building. Much appreciated. Let's see what else we got here. Yeah, and then I saw the Kevin C, the bad faith and framing. Also, I think I just seen another one come through. Where'd you go? Okay, so it said, what I've heard, they want to abort black boys and only raise black girls. Well, okay, so that in that particular post, she didn't make any mention of gender. Now that could be it. It could be like, oh, you found out it's a girl, keep it. Found out it's a boy, abort it. Either way, you're still going to run into the same problem, whether it's this generation or the following generation. God forbid you get in a scenario, you got all these women aborting these black boys. Now these black girls come of age, they're not going to be able to reproduce themselves. I mean, they can if if they date and marry out. But now, what they're not also considering is, let's just say, God forbid, you're in a scenario, we have a generation or two where black women only have black girls. Now, at this point, you can't. First of all, you can't blame black men for anything because they're not there. So now you got to take full on responsibility. You can't complain about protection. And now, if you really do want to date and marry out, now you're having to compete. You're having to compete with all the women from those other ethnic groups that didn't abort their boys. You're having to compete with the white men, right? Or the white women that are marrying the white men. You're having to compete with the Asian women that are marrying the white men. Like, you're now, if black men no longer exist and you're in the stage in your life where you want to date and marry, your men no longer exist. You're now trying to look to integrate into other ethnic groups. Those women haven't gone away. You're still having to compete with those women. And like I said, no protection. And you can't blame men for anything because they're no longer there. So these are the kinds of things I'm like, if you really think about how this is going to impact things generationally moving forward, good luck. Okay, if we're ready for it. But I think it's a bad idea. I think it's a horrible idea. Yeah, you said, I wonder how white women feel about black women swirling. That's a good question. I'd have to ask my friends. Honestly, this is just my opinion. I think a lot of people don't take it seriously, to be honest. I hate it, but I think when people hear black women talk about certain things, I think they see it as entertainment, but I don't know that they take it serious, honestly, because I don't know. I just think they're used to seeing us as entertainment, as seeing us as ones who talk loud and make a lot of noise, but when it comes maybe to actions or when it comes to political power, however you want to put it, very little. So I don't know that white women by and large feel threatened by black women talking about swirling, because I haven't really seen a lot of women out there. I haven't seen any white woman really out there be like, oh my gosh, you're taking our men. I have never once seen that. So I don't know that I think white women are threatened by the prospect of black women saying they're swirling. I don't really think they care, because quite honestly, I don't think they see us as a threat. Why? Because we're wearing their hair. We're dyeing our hair blonde, getting contacts, trying to make ourselves look lighter sometimes. Talking about going to Europe and in Paris and in Italy, and talking about going to European cultures, talking about European brands. Like, we're essentially, whether you want to call it white femininity, we're essentially copying white femininity. So I don't think white women really see us as a threat. I could be crazy. That's just my thought. That's just my opinion. I don't think they see us as a threat. I don't think they're thinking, oh, wow, they're taking all of our great men. No. Because I know what their men like. And all we got to do is look at the marriage rates to find out what the men like. Anyways, so guys, if you're on here, y'all get those likes up. Tag anybody. Share this with someone that you think may find it interesting. Yeah, that's absolutely right. So I think y'all. Those are really my thoughts on it. Like, at the end of the day, if we really love black women, then I think we should make sure that we exist. And telling us to abort kids is not going to lead to our existence. And like I said, even if you're just saying just abort black boys and keep the girls, you're still going to run to the same problem. Maybe a generation or two later, but you're still going to run to the same problem eventually. And that's just not smart. Also, by the way, can we talk about the kind of men that we're choosing? Can we talk about how relationships are reflective? And if we really have had horrible situations and been in situations, God forbid, where we're with a guy and he switches up, what does that show about ourselves? What does that show about where we're at in our relationship with ourselves, mentally, spiritually? As I said before, relationships are reflective. And listen, this is not a past judgment. This is not the past judgment. This is just real life. Like I said, water seeks its own level. So, what we are attracted to is honestly and usually a reflective of what is going on inside of us internally. Whether it's, self-esteem issues, it is communication issues, it is being attracted to trauma, being attracted to drama, finding peace, boring, only knowing how to exist in chaos, only going after superficial things. Sometimes it's just downright ignorance. It could be many things, but either way, it is relationships are reflected. So, like I said, women who find themselves in these kind of scenarios, it's not even about beating yourself up. It's not even about saying, I'm such a horrible person. But you don't want to end up in that. You don't. And I think to assume as if anytime you deal with a man, a black man, you're going to end up in that kind of situation. No, that is not being honest with yourself. Because you're not being honest about the kind of men that you've chosen. There are good guys out there who do want to commit, who do want to marry. For all those saying black men don't value marriage, well then why are more of them married? Why are more of them married and have more kids within wedlock than outside of wedlock? Like it doesn't, the numbers don't add up. I mean, we can spew narrative all we want. Happy to do it. But when we actually look at what's happening and how people are moving, we see what's going on. So, no, like that's what I'm saying. This conversation is oftentimes too one-sided. A man and a woman come together and decide to have a baby, whether it is conscious or subconscious, or whether they actively want to do it or not. Like I said, marry before you carry. I think it's really pretty simple. That alleviates all this kind of drama. Like I said, that's why I'm a big proponent of abstinence. I break this down in some of my other videos. But either way, marry before you carry, and don't act like relationships are one-sided and blame all the issues on the men if it doesn't go the way that you want. Because one, that is scapegoating. Secondly, you're never going to be able to heal, and you're never going to be able to even grow if you cannot face the truth about yourself. And like I said, if you chose to get in a relationship with a guy who showed their colors, it's like, why were you attracted to that? Why were you attracted to that kind of stuff? It's not that you are taking responsibility for his errors, because you can't. But you can take responsibility for what would make you attracted to somebody that toxic. And those are the kinds of conversations that I think would be more reflective and more honest, so that we don't have to hyper focus on the 50% of guys, and overlook the overwhelming majority who wouldn't even do this. So, y'all, those are just my thoughts. I think I saw, shout out again to Dapper Gent with the 5. Much sponsor of the week coming through, like always. I think I saw another one here. I see JD with the 10 on this super chat. Much appreciated. I see some ladies will literally choose a dog over a good black man. So no wonder why some think so little of it. You said a dog over a good black man. And quite honestly, I think you're right. I think there are women who would literally rather sit at home at night with Fido than learn how to work together with a man, because Fido does not talk bad. You come in and loves you, licks you, doesn't talk, don't yell at you, don't scream, follows you all over. He doesn't talk back. Easy companion. So I agree. I think there are women who would legitimately prefer to have a dog than a man. And I think those kind of women should do that. You should absolutely do that. But let's not also say that we love black women and we're for empowering black women or advocating for black women while we are at the same time advocating for the extinction of ourselves. To me, I found that's contradictory. That's just my thoughts. Those are my thoughts. So that's all I got, y'all, on the topic. That is all I got. I have a few minutes if anybody wants to call in and share their thoughts, guys. Thanks for the love and the support, guys. If you would like to show support, to are open. Also, you can find me on Cash App for Venmo. Also, you know what? I wanted to give a special shout out to for Dapper James. I think I saw you send through some love yesterday on the Cash App. So shout out to Dapper James with the 10 on the Cash App. Oh, you said no. He meant a dog, a bad black. Oh, well, but listen, my position still stands. I still think that between a dog, Fido, or a man, there's some women that would rather just literally have a dog. Like, am I wrong? Am I tripping? Am I tripping, y'all? Oh my goodness. Okay, right here. So y'all, if y'all want to call in, I got a few minutes before I wrap this thing up. So y'all let me know what you think. Am I tripping? Am I tripping, y'all? Did I get this wrong? Like I said, I think I'm in the minority opinion. I think a lot of women do believe. Nah, I don't want to say everybody, but I guess people in that clique, in that circle, which has a pretty good amount of reach. They do believe that you should just you should just abort and don't mess with these dusties, and life's gonna be okay. And they also believe that these black men are just ungrateful, and as a way to punish them, you should just don't deal with them. And is that the best strategy, y'all? Is that really the best strategy? Oh, you said no. I mean an actual dog. I just cut one loose over a dog. Right? Okay, so I wasn't sure. Okay, so yeah, you meant an actual dog. That's what I thought. An actual dog. And like I said, my point still stands. I honestly believe there are women here who would prefer an actual dog animal than learning how to work together with a average black man. I think that would, or a black man period, I think that would be a better option for them. And like I said, if you hold that belief, you should. Please, if that is how you feel, please do that. Like, please do not ever try to be with man. Because I think that would be that'd be not good. That would not be good. Oh, that's hilarious. That's hilarious. You said, JD, my bad, brother. All good. It's just connections. Okay, so it looks like I got a caller here. You guys call in if you want. I got a few minutes. Y'all let me know if I got it wrong. Like I said, I believe in black women creating black women and black boys, period. I believe in that. I also think that when we're having these conversations about kids, we should start to be honest about it. We should start to be honest about the different. First of all, relationship skills. Do you have the relationship skills? Do you know how to choose? Are you spiritually, mentally, emotionally well? Like, you got to work on that stuff. And if not, then like you're gonna find yourself in a situation, unfortunately, where with the F boys, with the dog, as the dogs, as DOD was trying to refer to, that kind. So okay, let me see. Okay, so I got my regulars. Y'all are my regulars. Y'all are my regulars. What's going on?
Hey, Miss Shay.
So what you got in the topic?
I think it's a ridiculous premise, the starting point, to say that you're gonna keep your baby girls, but abort your baby boys. First of all, I would kind of question, like, what makes somebody that has that mindset feel that they're qualified to raise anybody successfully in the first place?
That's facts. That's facts. I wouldn't. I would say no. I would say no. Like I said, if you don't even want to have a kid, first of all, you shouldn't. And if you have hatred and such hatred with essentially 50% of your ethnic group, then I would also say no. It's probably not the best time to be trying to raise kids.
Yeah, and it's one of those things we as people grow and evolve, and some things get forced upon us by circumstance. But if we know we don't want kids going in, I feel that's a whole different situation than selectively saying, no, I'm only going to keep it if it's this result. And even if it was the reverse, like that, I just feel utterly foolish.
Right. No, I hear you. I mean, I don't even, sometimes these stuff just sounds so ridiculous to me. It's crazy. But when I saw it being shared, because I think I saw Real Talk with Yanni share it, and she made the mention. She's like, yeah, these dudes, they be switching up on you when you get pregnant, which that might be the experience for some women. I don't want to act like it's not, but I do think sometimes these conversations can be one-sided, and it's like, okay, so let's talk about how The reason we want to talk about how we get in those situations is not so that we can necessarily shame ourselves, because some people, what's done is done, but it's more like, how can people who haven't yet gotten a situation avoid it? How can younger people do better? How, or just how can you heal? Because like I said, if you are attracting toxic, wishy-washy, unclear situationships, that's a bad setup for the kid too, because now it's like there's not stability in the home, and it's not an ideal scenario. So either way, I think there needs to be a more reflective conversation. It can't be like all these men just don't want you to abort kids, so you might as well just abort them to get back at them or whatever. It can't just be that. It has to be that both the man and the woman in the scenario maybe didn't make the best choices, or maybe weren't as thoughtful as they should have been.
Well, even with that, I think that goes to something deeper, because a lot of women who specifically talk about black men don't want their kids and things like that. A lot of these times, these brothers, they're being forced out of their kids' lives. Like,
that does happen too. I've heard of that also. I've heard of that the other way, where women will start to use the kids as leverage. That is true. That is a story that's not told.
And I mean, I'm speaking as somebody who's gone through certain things, and it is, everybody always talks about things from the mother's perspective. And I'm not saying that women don't go through anything or anything like that, but nobody ever thinks about the father's perspective of how things are for that guy when you go from being married and seeing your baby boy every day to all of a sudden now you can't see him every day, to now, you know, you have visitation and certain things in writing, and that other person is able to violate that order up and down, and you can't hold them accountable. The means that was intended to protect you and ensure your rights were basically, it's just a coaster. And
yeah, no, that is another side. That is another side of it. There's another side of it for sure. Like I said, that's not necessarily always addressed. Because I've heard of scenarios. Literally, I've heard of scenarios where, or know of scenarios personally, where women were using their kids as leverage. And also, by the way, I know of scenarios where, and this, well, and that's a whole nother scenario. Because when you're talking about people who get married, and God forbid they get divorced, and I've seen it to where, you know, there's interracial couples. The woman was either, you know, a black or a woman of color, and they get divorced, and the court rules in the favor of the white father. I know of 2 cases where this has happened. So it's not so cut and dry. It's not always, the men always lose out or the women always lose out. These things, I think, are a lot more complicated, and I think that's why when we just always paint a narrative of this, the women are just doing this or the men are just doing that, and we're not really trying to look at either cases individually or encouraging people to be self-reflective and make sure that they're taking responsibility for their own actions, then I don't think much is getting done. I think we're just kind of
and not to derail it, but that definitely does play a part in it, because even going through my own divorce hearing, I had to sit and watch 2 proceedings ahead of me, and one of them was an interracial couple. It was a wealthy black guy, and it was a white female. She was pretty well to do, but the judge was basically begging her, like, yo, you leaving so much money on the table, you got it. And it was like, why are you trying to encourage her to sow strife into their relationship? Like, they're going in separate ways. They got everything hammered out. Like, they handing you paperwork for their plan. It's like, why are you trying to come over top of that? Because dude was like, you could get an extra $26,000 a year out of him. It's like, you're leaving so much on the table. But that's a whole other topic, and I want to be respectful to everybody else, so I don't want to tie it up.
Yeah. What you got, Kevin C?
Oh yeah, so hello everybody. Good evening, or afternoon, I suppose, right? late afternoon, early evening. Yeah. So one of my issues with this whole thing about reproduction as it relates to Black people is the way it's framed. You saw my statement that I threw in the network there, but it is very frustrating to me that in all of this conversation, the biggest issue that gets lost out of this is responsibility, accountability, making good choices, and linking up with good people. That's both the men and the women. And you've probably said it about a dozen times. You said the word choice, choices, options, selections. You've hinted around it. You said it literally about a dozen times. And it's almost as if when we talk about it in that framework, people are upset. And it's generally women who are upset about it. When it just makes logical sense to the men. It makes sense to us because we know that once we produce that child, whether we're married to a woman or not, we're responsible financially. We generally want to be in that kid's life. Now, I don't know about all these other guys the dusty ones they keep talking about.
That's what I was wondering, because I know she said literally these men want you to abort their kids and then essentially therefore go abort it. Like, because just the whole framing was weird. But that's why I asked, I was like, so is that a true statement? Like, do men, if they're not married to a woman or something and they're with a girl and she gets pregnant, is there a general consensus? Like, yeah, no, how to get rid of the kid unless you're married? Like, I don't know that situation. I've never been in that situation, so I can't speak to it. But it was just so interesting how the men are the ones that want abortions anyway, so therefore that's justification for you to do it. And I'm like, I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's true. Wrong, but
I can see that guys might not be ready to be because when they think about children, then you attach, marriage to it, you attach fatherhood to it, you attach everything else to it. So I can see why guys might not be ready for that. But then it goes to just use protection, bro. Like literally, that's all you have to do, and then double up with a woman actually using protection on the other side. Again, it goes back to that responsibility and accountability.
Right.
And the only issue that I have with this is that when we talk about this, it's always literally. You can go to any channel. I just looked at Nylah Says or Nylah, whatever her name is, Cynthia G and all these other folks and everything else. Just basically any divester or black man Haiti channel, and they always put the responsibility on the man, and it's never, hey, well, the woman actually sat there and made a choice to do the exact same thing and create the problem as well. So, and it's starting to get to the point where dudes are actually starting to push back on that narrative, and especially when you get to the point where you got about, just a little over 33% of black men already married, and then over 50% that don't even have kids. That's only known in a few small circles. Everybody else generally thinks that when we talk about the over 70% out of wedlock birth rate, that there's a 1-to-1 ratio. It's not a 1-to-1 ratio. It's like a 2-to-1, almost 3-to-1 ratio. You got way more women with children than men who have children. And no one knows that. There's only a small handful of people that really are talking about that.
Exactly. It's the minority. It's the minority of men who fit this scenario of being the single baby daddy, non-committal. It is a minority of men. And of course, when we look at the mating patterns, it is a lot easier for women to get sexual access than men. Let's just be honest.
It's always been easier for women.
Right.
Yeah. And I'll be honest with you, most men are not going to say no. Now, what most men should say should do if they're not going to say no is actually be responsible in their actions.
Most men are not going to say no. Women will, though. That's the thing about it. Women will not open up to a ugly, someone they see overweight, short dude, unless he has money and resources. If he has money and resources, or the attention, or he looks good. But like, we're a lot more selective. Men, you said men. I mean, there are men who they'll have sex with a woman that they don't even find attractive just because, she's there, So it's like, even we just know the way men and women think about that in particular, they move differently by and large. And the numbers bear this out. And I'm not saying that you should, like I think you, again, marry before you, that's all my thing. But I think even apart from that, it's like, you have to be honest about the choices. You have to be totally and completely honest about the choices. I am so very glad that I waited until I met my husband. So now I don't have, like I said, I don't have this scenario of, I was with this dude and this happened and then I got pregnant and then I had to go through aborting, or like, that's a lot of drama. And I'm like,
that would be my only issue with this. And the other thing too is the interesting thing is if women, so I don't know if you know the stats on this, but if women actually force men into not force men into marriage, but just what do you call it, mandate marriage, generally, I think it's about a 90% rate where a man will still be an active father and provide financial support, even in the event of divorce. All right, so, and I get that that's a concern. So some people, it's almost like women are trying to streamline the process. Well, I don't want to worry about divorce, but I'll take the kid though. Like, and then you have the situation
like, else. That's a lifetime commitment. So if you're scared of a lifetime commitment here, but you're willing to engage in a lifetime commitment here, which, by the way, we already know is more likely to impact you financially negatively, not to mention some of the other concerns you're going to have by trying to raise a kid by yourself. Why is this option better than that option, when that option would provide you, at the very least, more stability and more support? So,
it makes very clear sense to me. Mandate marriage before you do all of this stuff, before the kid even becomes into the picture.
Right,
and even if in the event of divorce, generally, the majority of the time, the guy's going to be in the kid's life. You're going to get financial support, and then you're going to be able to do all the things you're supposed to be doing, and it actually makes sense. And you're still somewhat keeping the family together, but not, just legally, I suppose. It's just, I just don't really know how it's working out this way, and why women insist on doing it, in that backwards hustle fashion. It just does not make sense to me. And I can't figure it out. I can't get it. And then you talked about the one child, basically that whole thing about getting rid of the boys and raising girls, that you eventually get to the one child policy, basically what China did.
That's what I'm saying. And that's going to bring up another set of issues. Now, I guess the good thing it wouldn't be good, but I guess one good thing about that is, if God forbid there weren't black men here, then we couldn't blame them for stuff. They could no longer be the scapegoat. So they'd have to find another scapegoat.
Yeah. I'll say one more thing, and then I'll go ahead and dip out, because I know other people want to talk. So again, when you talk about choices, choose better, make better choices, and do all this other stuff and everything, invariably when you go to these other sites, they keep talking about, well, choosing better means choosing they don't say choosing better black men. It's just choosing non-black men. That's that kind of ties to that whole divester thing. Like, well, as if there are no good black men at all. As if you can't find any. Like, leave the bad ones alone and only choose the good ones. Like that. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're asking why is the option, the first thing to go to termination? Why is the first option to do this and the other? Everything else except the right thing. Everything else except the right thing. You see what I'm saying?
No, I hear you. And like I said, I have no problem if someone wants to do that, but you actually have to be chosen, and you have to now understand that there's still competition. There is no reality that exists where now you divest from black men and you just go into this other community where there's no competition and you have your pick of the litter. That doesn't exist. You still have.
There's absolute competition over there. I mean, there's competition everywhere, but and I'm not saying with there's this narrative that black men are the trash men of the dating world. That's not true. We have standards. All right. That being said, it's funny because I heard Dennis Purdy actually did an interview with a divester, and she was talking about all the things that she was doing just to get this non-black man to be interested in her, just to compete. And I'm like, well, shoot, those are all the things that black men want you to do too. She went down a list of, I gotta stay in shape, I gotta do this, I'm eating healthy, I gotta work out, I gotta do, I'm being very, friendly and submissive and cooperative.
Right.
I'm like, well, that's all the things that every man wants. You're competitive in that way, but so you'll do it for a non-black man, but not for somebody in your own race and group who's actually give you a lot more latitude in actually picking you. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm like, here's the thing. If she wants to do that, that's fine. Like I said, she has the right to do that. A woman has the right to do that for anybody. It's just, you already know, we've gone through this over and over again. I think some people, and I don't know if it's like a way to kind of make themselves feel better. Like if there's maybe a sense of internal guilt that, hey, I really just don't like the way black men look, or I really just like the way, I don't know if there's some people who feel guilty about saying that. So in order to justify it, they have to demonize that group so that they feel justified. I don't know. But I'm like, I would just rather you say, look, I don't like the way black men look. Honestly, I think they're ugly. I prefer the way white men look. And I want to get with them. To me, that would be honest. And if you're not going around and spreading hate or spewing propaganda, I wouldn't care. No issue.
That seems reasonable. But yeah, anyway, those are the just kind of things I wanted to kind of get out. And this is actually a really interesting topic. I don't really know how other people feel about this. It's almost as if people have the idea that the things we say over here on our side, and that we kind of say when we're collectively talking amongst ourselves, that other people don't see.
Right.
You know,
absolutely.
and yeah. But at any rate, yeah, thanks.
Well, thanks for calling in. You have a good one.
You too.
Okay. So what is that? IMB Maverick. What you got?
Hey, yo. So I really feel like black, like, and I've said this many times, is that like black women don't, I don't know, I guess they don't see black men as human beings, you know, and it's evident in the myriad things that we see going on, and the way they talk about, you know, getting the bag, and like they only see us as money, and it's actually dehumanizing in the same way that most women or most people don't want to be dehumanized in that way, you know. And as far as the having kids is concerned, you know, just yesterday I was on Pink Book Lessons site, and she covered a piece where this black woman literally tried to throw her son in front of a truck.
Ooh.
Like, and the guys got out of the truck, had to grab her, separate her from the kid, and I'm just like, what psychologically is so wrong with you? Like that is insane, you know. And it's
right. And to be clear, those kind of, like, if that's how you feel, that's why I'm like, yeah, you probably shouldn't have kids, quite honestly. If you have that kind of hatred or whatever it may be, you should. Like, don't put yourself in a situation to have
right.
Kids. It's kind of like, I don't know if you've ever been in, you know, back in school where there were those teachers who you could tell didn't want to be teachers.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Like, they were impatient, yelling at everybody, like just so. And it's just like you shouldn't be here. So that made me very.
I think they create the men that they despise, and that their daughters will end up despising as well. I mean, I heard one a creator say that, like, they try to make their daughters into men, or put these ideas in their head of them being men, and I think it's something that they internalize too, because it's a strange thing that started popping up where you know, they have these women want gifts on Father's Day, and a woman could do a child only needs her mother. She could be a mother. A woman can be a mother and a father. Like, that's so freaking absurd. Like, what do you mean? There is value that a man brings to a child's life that you will never be able to possess. Not saying that you don't bring your own gifts. Your gifts are absolutely necessary, but so are mine. So are mine.
Absolutely. No, I hear you. I hear you. And I would say, no, Father's Day should be for let Father's Day be for fathers, please. Like, that's my thought. Now, I know that's a whole other conversation. But I don't think women cannot teach men how to be men. I don't believe that. I do not. I think you need a man to teach a man how to be men, because we're made different biologically. The way we process things is different. I think children do need a mother and a father. I do absolutely need, like, feminine, masculine input. They absolutely do. But there are limitations. I think there's going to be limitations. Like a man that's growing up exclusively around women, there's going to be certain limitations that women, by nature of which is, cannot. You know, we can try to piece together and make it up based upon what we see online or on shows, but it's not. We're not men. Period. We're not men. Yeah. It's like you can't try to replicate something. It's like a cheap knockoff, but it's not the real thing. So
exactly.
Like, no, be a mother, but you don't have to be. You know.
Yeah, and what they end up doing is doing a bad job at both. And I can't. Like, I had this conversation with a buddy of mine, because I thought I was the only one. Like, I've had multiple women that I have talked to in the past. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, we talking and they're like, oh, you're a great guy. You know, you're smart. You got a head on your shoulders, you know, blah, blah, blah. But then they just like, I would love for you to be the father of my kid. And I'm just like, okay, so you want to
wow.
like
Not
straight
like,
like
man, like marriage.
no.
How do you jump? How do you? That's what I'm saying. How do you go from we're dating, you're talking to I want to make a lifetime commitment to you, but not commit to you as a man.
And want no input from me in any child's life. But like I said, I thought this was something that I completely was going through on my own. But I was talking to one of my buddies, and I was like, "Bro, don't you think that's weird?" He was like, "Bro, that happened to me all the time." I'm like, "What?" Like
That's
this is
weird.
the modern game. Like women want kids, but they don't want to have anything to do with a man. I mean, I blame feminism, but I mean third wave at least, but.
That you know what, that actually makes sense. I never thought about it.
Right?
Like, okay, why would a woman do that? Because she wants the kid, but doesn't want that direct accountability with a man. I never thought of it that way, but that actually makes sense. That makes sense to me. That is maybe why, because I'm like, that doesn't make any sense why you would value one and not the other one. One, from a logical standpoint, is so better on all these different metrics. But see, when you're with a man, you have to learn how to work together with him, and that can be a challenge, especially if you're with a you want to call it a man's man, which many of us women are attracted to, who's going to have some standards and boundaries and probably have some discipline and maybe want to put his foot down on certain things and you have to negotiate something. Well, I want that. They want to do what they want to do and be like, you're not my father.
Correct.
I have my choices that I want to make.
Correct.
And that's what it is. So
100%. I agree 100%.
Never
like that.
Well, guys, if you're on here, get those likes up. By the way, get those likes up if you're just joining in. Super chats are open, so show some support to the show for the super chats. Also, you can find me on Cash App or Venmo, Shay Sade. And then I'll let you guys continue a little bit longer, and then I'm gonna try to wrap this thing up.
Gotcha. I think brother made a great point about the feminism aspects. I feel like along with that comes a narrative of fear and abuse and all these things that malign men, and in particular black men, like create this false narrative that we're somehow these privileged arbiters who are able to oppress others in the community just because we're black men. And it's like all of the systems of society, most of them actually are inherently and intrinsically biased and more aggressive against us because of that confluence of us being black and men.
100%.
Right. No, I think but the reality is both if we look at oppression as abuse, both can do that. Men and women can abuse, period.
Exactly.
So that's what I'm saying. No, I'm not acting like there aren't men out there who want to skirt responsibility, don't want to step up, don't want to man up. That absolutely happens. And also, by the way, there are broken women out there who also do the same thing, who can be abusive, who can be mean, can be evil, can be irresponsible, can have no accountability. That just happened. And like I said, if you are toxic people are generally drawn to other toxic people. Again, water seeks its own level. Say that over and over again. Water seeks its own level. So if you find yourself consistently in situations that are chaotic, usually that's going to be a reflection of you. Period. It's not comfortable to face that truth, but usually it is. And I'm not saying that life is always perfect. There are things that happen to us that are outside of our control. Yes, but for those things that are strictly based upon our own choices and strictly based upon what we have done or not done, that's us. That's us. And it's like, blame it on somebody else all you want. Should I say it's all men, it's over there. It's all these people. But like if you were the common denominator in that scenario, in all these different scenarios, so if you are the only variable that has not changed, then it's like, well, at some point you gotta fess up with yourself. You know?
Yeah, I like that you use the word variable, because that's one of the things that I love about your platform is you bring the numbers and the statistics and they don't lie. And it's like Donald Trump's rallies where he's like, there's a million people. There's never been more people when, there's a couple hundred or a couple thousand. It's like, sis, you fooling who are you trying to fool? Because you're fooling nobody. The numbers, I can easily verify this. So what you're talking about is just straight nonsense, and that's one of the things I love about what you bring to this conversation is facts, numbers, statistics, reality. Because all of the rest of it is smoke and mirrors.
I do my best, and I'll be honest and say I have a great researcher, aka my husband, who helps me a lot with research. He's deep in those numbers with me, and I'll like read some and be like, I got it, like. So, but that stuff is important. You have to have because narrative is easy. That's the thing about it. Narrative is very easy. It would be so much more easier for me to sit out here and just tell you how I feel, or tell you how I've seen it, and even tell you how I've seen my girlfriends tell me, like, because there's things that I've had girlfriends tell me, and I'm like, okay, that's a personal experience, but also, by the way, that's not reflective of what's generally happening, or just because you had 2 bad breakups doesn't mean that all men are like this, or doesn't, So I think the reason it's good for us to also do that is because, one, it helps us level set expectations, and then 2, I think it can be a good way of us honestly looking in the mirror and making sure that, hey, maybe the problem is us, or maybe there's things that we're doing that are feeding into it. But like I said, that requires work sometimes. That requires study. It's a lot. It would be easy for me to come up here and just tell you how I felt, and that's it, and not do the work behind it. But that's not going to help anybody, So, anyways, well, I appreciate you for sharing your opinion. For those of you guys who just joined on here, likes are up, super chats are open. Yeah, and I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to add it, or better if you had anything you wanted to chime in before I.
Well, my final thought would kind of be just in terms of the discussion dynamic, and kind of to piggyback off of what Mr. Kevin C said. I think the solution to this is rooted a lot in what he was saying with identification and selection. In particular, we are in a society in particular where it's been masculine traits have been demonized, and masculine traits are the solution to this. A masculine man is stuck in, he's self-aware, and he's stuck in self-control of himself.
Right.
He's a leader. He provides direction. He provides protection.
Yeah.
If women are truly worried about being abused, having somebody who's masculine is going to be a shield because of that, because he's responsible for the protection of everyone and everyone connected to him. So if there's somebody in his umbrella, in his circle, who is being abused or state of being abused, he gonna handle that.
Right. Right. No, absolutely. You're talking about essentially real masculine men don't have these traits, period. So again, what are you going back to? What are you choosing? What are you attracted to? And that's what I'm saying as women. I can say this honestly as a woman, knowing the kinds of stuff that, especially as Black women, we are essentially primed to find attractive. And I think a lot of this goes back to what we see online, media, shows. I think that's a whole other conversation, but I think many of us are, whether or not we even know it, we are primed to be attracted to the wrong thing, especially in our youth. And I think this is partially this could be applied across the board to all women. What's that? I can't think of that word, but there's that word that describes women who are attracted to danger, which many of us when we're young, you want something exciting, you want something fun, you want something edgy. We see this with some of those young movie stars, some of those young songers and singers, right? They'll choose rappers that got like 4 or 5, 6 baby mamas, and who are 20 years older than them, and it's like, really, So I know that's an anecdotal situation, but I think Black women, I don't know that we are encouraged to choose the kind of men, because they're seen as boring. Honestly, they're seen as boring. But so that's a whole other conversation. Also, real quick, I see in here, I see someone here talking about I saw a comment in there about California. I know comments are moving fast about men in California. So, I'm in California, been here my whole life. My family's from here. All I dated is Black men. That's all I dated. I know many women that have dated and married Black men in California. So I don't know if I understand the narrative of Black men in California don't like Black women. I mean, if you go to Oakland, which is a big metropolitan area, you see plenty of Black couples, plenty. Now you go to San Francisco, you may see a little bit more maybe, but you also see a lot of LGBTQ. You see a little bit of everything. So, but in my general experience, just for those of you out here who have this idea that California, all the Black men are going for Becky's, that's not been my experience. I met my husband in California, and I could tell you countless scenarios of women that's been the same. So we can all compare experiences, but that's mine.
I think women will find it, what do they call it? An echo chamber for any type of idea that they want. And that's what that is a clear example of. Like, if you want to believe it, you'll find a group of women to get together and y'all have a powwow or whatnot, sipping mimosas or, a thought girl summer. But that in the end, that's not going to help you. In the end, that doesn't help your community. And it speaks to a bigger point and a bigger problem that I feel. I feel like Black women have disconnected their own identities from the identity of the community. Because that's the only way you could think some craziness like, I'm going to kill half the population, but we still going to be good.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Sometimes the way that we operate and move is for a different race. And we're not. I've said this multiple times where it's like there is no reality exists that like you can walk around and you're not going to be perceived for your Blackness. That's not happening. We can try to assimilate and wear our hair certain ways and talk in certain ways and even interracially marry and date, but we know the Asian Maynards of the world. We know the Lawrence Smithfields. We know if God forbid, you end up with a person of a white guy or a person of an ethnic group who has bad character and he hurts you, and now you're in the law. We already know how you're going to be treated. We know this. So that's what I'm saying. When I see that positioned a lot as if, okay, Black men, Black women, and Black women being treated like their own subgroup race. And I'm like, we can say that and we can create this subculture on social media if you want, that's fine. But when it comes to how institutions operate and when it comes to how you're going to be treated, the results speak for itself, period. And that's why that's why I never say you can't date or marry. You can expand your options if that's what you want to use, but whatever. It's like, go where you want to go, but you still got to be honest with how you're perceived. And you still got to be honest with where you're at, the society you're operating in, and move accordingly. And also, by the way, don't shoot yourself in the foot while doing it. And don't go and now create more havoc and chaos in your community. That's going to eventually may come back and bite you in the butt, So that's all I'm saying. But I appreciate you guys for coming on and sharing your perspective.
My pleasure.
I think you hit some definite truths there.
Keep me right.
So, anyways, you guys have a good night or good afternoon, wherever you guys are at. Okay. Yeah. So, I think you hit on some good points there. You hit on some good points there, where it's like, yeah, some of us be treating ourselves like we are. Black women in particular, we be treating ourselves like we are a different race, and it's like, no, we ain't. we are not. Like I said, I'm thinking of doing a whole follow-up on these situations with what was a recent one with Christian, Toby, and Courtney, and then there was the Asian Maynard, and there was the Lawrence Smithfields. I'm sure there's other ones, but it's like all these unfortunate, really, really unfortunate interracial situations that ended up, and the person's still walking around, perpetrator's still walking around free. I think I may do a follow-up on that because that's I think there's a lot to unpack there. But anyways, make a long story short, if you're a woman in here in America, you Black woman here in America, yeah, you're a woman, but you're still Black. You still won't be perceived as that. So don't sit here and act like you are going to be treated separately or seen as separately from your men. It's just not going to happen. As I said before, if you want to do this whole abort thing, bad idea. Okay, but even if you think it's a good idea, you're again going to shoot yourself in the foot because a generation or two, you ain't got no Black men here. First of all, you can't blame all your problems on them, so they can no longer become your scapegoat. Ain't no talk of protection, period. And now you over here trying to integrate into other ethnic groups. in this society that still has racist tendencies, and you think you're just gonna go into the Asian community or white community, Indian community, and not have to compete with their women when you're not trying to integrate yourself into a different culture? Good luck. Good luck. Get comfortable with Fido, as he said. Get comfortable with that dog. Like I said, we're not even being realistic, y'all. We're not being honest. We are not being honest with ourselves. So that's what I'm saying. Instead of promoting things that are going to be destructive, how about actually talk about the things that we're doing to destroy ourselves, and then maybe we can do better? How about talking about what are the attributes that you should look for when choosing a husband? Bam! What are the attributes you should look for when choosing a husband and somebody to raise your kids? Bam! I think that is a much more productive conversation. And that would be productive conversations for younger generations. So we're not even having to focus on this whole baby daddy, baby drama, situation, because we're not constantly finding ourselves in those scenarios. I think prevention is the best option. If you just prevent it from happening, then not an issue. And like I said, if you think all the problems is black men, if you really have that scenario, don't think you're going to now go date and marry somebody from another ethnic group and it's going to be healthy. If you got all that hatred in your heart, you're going to find something toxic. If you really have that hatred in your heart towards black men or towards men in your community or your community period, you're going to find something toxic. Best believe it's going to be toxic, because you can't carry that hatred. You can't carry that negativity and it not come out in some other area in your life. It doesn't work like that. So, shout out to Better You for the love and support. Much appreciated. Much appreciated. Guys, again, if you like this show, shout out to Malarkey. Malarkey, we appreciate you. You're streaming in from London. Isn't it late out where you're at? It's late. I appreciate the love and support. One of my consistent ones. Yeah, you said other races and men will sleep with black women. Yeah. Oh, I see. And now, okay, and I want to touch upon this real quick. I'm seeing this comment again, guys. Sexual access is not marital access. As some of the guys alluded to earlier, there's dudes out there that will literally lay down and have sex with a woman they're not even attracted to physically. Just because that's just men. When it comes to sex, it's more of like this an abundance mentality, for better or for worse. I'm not saying that I agree with that, but. So it's when it comes to having sex, they're not looking at that deep. Women were a lot more selective, and there's actually scientists who have literally sat down and figured out why. But a man will have sex with a woman that he's not sexually attracted to, and maybe in private, maybe behind closed doors, but he'll do it. Women, that's not happening. You gotta come with something valuable. You either gotta look really good or be successful. Period. So we're a lot more selective. So the reason I say that is because we as women think because we're selective, we think that men are also being selective. So if they're giving us the attention, then they really like us. They're really vetting us. When it's like, no, not necessarily true. Sexual access is not marital access. And again, going back to why I personally believe, listen, marry before you carry, right? I think there are, and I may need to revisit this whole reason, because I'm not one to tell somebody like, you just, I obviously think abstinency and celibacy is good, but I think unless you're doing it for the right reason, like I said, I was abstinent because I made a commitment to God. So I was doing it for like a different reason. You got people out here right now that trying to be celibate just because as a way to think they can get better options, or just because they want to prove themselves or make themselves look better. The whole kind of like the whole born again version thing, or I've been celibate for 1 year, so now I deserve to be a high value man. It's like, no, that's not why you be celibate. So I may need to revisit that. But apart from my long tangent, like I said, at the end of the day, y'all, this is not that difficult, and it's not complicated. I think when we are honest with ourselves and we're honest with why we are choosing what we are choosing, men will have sex with you if you give them the chance. But they will not necessarily marry you if they don't see you as wife material. And there are things and there are ways that you can know really, really early on, this is a man that is a forever, or this is a man that sees me as a just side piece. But when you don't know the difference between the two, when you don't know that You think they're seeing you as a forever and they're seeing you as a side piece? This is how this kind of stuff can happen. This is how this kind of stuff can happen, y'all. And you don't want to do that. You don't want to be thinking that this is a forever and he's seeing you as a side piece, a side booty at best, as one of the commenters said. And I think that's what happens. I think there are times when women are thinking, oh, he really loves me because we're having sex or whatever it may be. You're feeling it. He's seeing you as side booty at best. You're pregnant. He bounces. It's bad. Now all men are bad. And it's like, no. Not all men are bad because you're with a F-boy, as you put it. Maybe there should be a conversation about how to make that distinction, you know? So, yeah, there's men out there who got some issues, and also there's women out there who have issues. And I think it's about time we start talking about what are maybe some of those issues. What are the things that we do that can even make us susceptible to these kind of scenarios or susceptible to these kind of men? And I think that might be a more productive conversation moving forward. So anyways, my thoughts, my perspective, like I said, I don't believe in the extinction of Black babies. I don't believe in the extinction of Black girls or Black boys. I think if we love our Black women, then we should make sure that they continue to exist. And I think we should also talk about how to choose better and how to be healthy so that we're attracted to healthy. So we don't need to continue to have these conversations where we gaslight men or blame everything on men every 15 seconds. My opinion. So y'all let me know what you think. If you agree, disagree, leave it in the comment section. Definitely be sure to like this, share if you found it interesting. Also show some love and support to the show if you want to. You can find me on Cash App or Venmo, Shay Sade. Appreciate all of you guys for being here, hanging out with me this Friday afternoon, evening for some of you guys. This has been fun. Yeah, I think that's what I got for today. And stay tuned, y'all. Stay tuned for some more interesting, engaging content coming up. Hit that hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. And yeah, stay tuned, y'all. We will talk later. Thanks. Bye.